Hello, I am Violetta with Notice That Therapy PLLC. I'm here today because I don't know, I just felt it could be useful, um, kind, um, thoughtful to start talking more about the role of spiritual wellness in our mental health, and on our mental wellness journeys. Um, as clinicians, we are charged with doing our therapeutic work at multiple dimensions, right? When I say clinicians in this sense, I'm a trained social worker. So I'm thinking of social workers and how we're trained. But we're trained to think about how the biological impacts a client's mental health, the psychological impacts of a client's mental health, the social or relational components um, to that. And one of the things that we are trained to work with as well is the spiritual layer or the spiritual domain of wellness. And so, because I came into this work as a clinician uh, and a psychotherapist, a clinical social worker, I came into this path actually through a line of work called Healing Justice. And I won't share the full story of what healing justice is, but at least the way we practice it in the circles that I was moving through and collaborating and organizing with, there's this piece where we have to acknowledge the intergenerational wealth and the intergenerational wisdom that we carry through various types of ancestral medicine. Um, And there are so many powers that exist in the world, social forces, systems of racial inequity. I could kind of just go on and on and on about those social forces, but they have a direct impact on our mental health, right? Policies can help us or policies can harm us. Um, but there's a spiritual component that is very integral to this work. I will get back. I can diverge very easily with these subjects. Um, but kind of redirecting back to spiritual health, spiritual wellness, etc. Um, a lot of people think about that spiritual component as one's religious background or one's faith, and that can certainly be a part of the spiritual domain of wellness. Um, but it's not the only aspect of such a large, vast, broad, and abundant um, category for how we as human beings make meaning of our day to day lives, make meaning of behavior, make meaning of communication and connection. We're naturally oriented to be social beings as part of our um, species, right? And so, and our social need. And so, what role does um, collective spirituality and individual spirituality play in the domain of uh, mental wellness and under this vast umbrella of mental health? So, I don't want to actually get into all the headiness of that. I've done that for almost 4 minutes already. What I really care about is demonstrating a practice that one could use to kind of do a check in on their own mental wellness. So I'm going to bring in a deck of cards, tarot cards, and we can think of this as me sharing how to lean on a particular practice. Um, but also um, a way to introduce a new resource that you could use in your own free time. Okay, great. So here's the resource that I'm going to bring in today. I'm going to pull a card from the Lineages of Change tarot deck. The founder, if I'm not mistaken, of this deck is Adrienne Marie Brown, and she brings in a host and collective of really amazing people to contribute to this project. And quite quite a few of those folks come from Michigan, so that's really neat. So I'm gonna pull a card, and this is going to be, we can think about this as like an encouraging thought of the day, right? Keep it really simple. Um, it is comparable to reading a daily devotional, when you get really encouraging messages with references, whether that is someone's spiritual book or like the Bible or something like that. Um, or there might be quotes in it from really inspirational people, Maya Angelou, um, who else? I mean, the poet Lord Byron, name your favorite person, right? And so we're not thinking about this as, oh, this is a tool that is weird and is kind of woo-woo. It's not actually woo-woo. It is, I mean, woo-woo is an interpretation. If you feel like it's woo-woo, that's fine. But this is really a reference point for you to be able to check in with yourself. Um, and if someone is going to use something like tarot cards or oracle cards, I really want to recommend do your research on the creator of the cards. You get to have standards and values that are important to you honored in the creation of a deck or any resource that you use. So, yeah, it matters. I know people are on TikTok these days, and I guess everybody on TikTok does tarot or does some type of energy work. And um, while that can be helpful and useful to people, again, be sure that you are learning from people and sources who have teachers, who have communities or circles to help hold them accountable to their spiritual integrity. That matters. So anyway, I'll pull a card and then I'll direct you kind of what to do, right? Okay, so this card I'm going to pull. There is a card here called the Root of Fire. There's an individual on it who is just like standing really fiercely in these different billows of color and light. I won't show the card because it's just going to be difficult to see on the screen. Uh, but the Root of Fire, let's go to the page that offers a description for this particular tarot card or card of encouragement. Um, okay, Root of Fire. So, tarot, people break it down by elements of the natural world, and so you have um your group of earth cards, your group of air cards, your group of water cards, and so forth. Um, and so fire is what we'll be looking into for our pool today. So let me, such pretty cards. Just the visual aesthetic of the cards in this book, it's really, really, it's really beautiful. Okay, so the Root of Fire. Um, So we have this description here. It gives us some keywords. The keywords include like emotions such as excitement, um, energy, flexible intuition, adventure, excessive energy. So a keyword for a tarot card could indicate these are the feelings, the somatic experiences, um, the positive reference points that we might think of when we are looking at a particular card that comes from a particular group of elements. And so the description here says, we can always harness the energy of excitement, following an intuition that feels like internal sparks in order to turn and face your next adventure. You hold the whole future within you, bringing abundance wherever you go. You seek what is seeking you, you gather what you need to survive. So we can think of this as when I am operating in alignment, this card may really resonate with me. And if it does not resonate with me, it could objectively not, and that is totally cool. Um, but it could also mean that there is something that is out of alignment. And so this particular deck, which is why I say look for good-hearted people who are doing this work. Because if we're not feeling in alignment or if we're doing things that seem inconsistent with what we say our values are, we might beat up on ourselves and so forth. And this book is not really about that. It's really about offering another perspective. In therapy, one of the ways that some people will want to measure their healing is by um, the ease with which they can do that skill that I just named. So, um, the ability to take a different perspective without losing your perspective. This is a part of being analytical, in a really helpful way. Um, yeah, some people notice that when they experience more psychological flexibility, right, they can move between different possibilities and scenarios without getting their nervous system really activated way outside of their window of tolerance. Um, so that's not a measure for everyone. Again, it depends on what your goals are for your health and wellness. Um, but for some people, becoming more psychologically flexible is a real aspiration. Some people are too psychologically flexible, and so somebody's goal could be, how to set stronger boundaries or how to move with more assertiveness or whatever the case may be. So I really want to emphasize that a lot of times I'm using examples. It's not a universal. Um, this is why, yeah, again, I am a therapist, yes, and also this is a community education page. I am not offering people therapeutic treatment plans who might be this video. So this is all just an offering and a sharing from just like a community education standpoint. Okay, looking at tools that can help us with our spiritual wellness. Okay, so I just read the more aligned description, and then for when we are not in alignment, the offering for the root of fire card says, consider how to stay in right relationship. When there is a lot of energy involved, what's good for you can harm others if not channeled through solid grounding. Find a rhythm that works for you and those you love. See what I mean? And so the reflection question for this card says, who is calling for your fire? Who is calling for your fire? You can think of this reflection question as, right, if you're a content creator, who's your audience, right? Like who wants to consume and partake in the things that you offer in the world, related to content? Who is calling for your fire could mean, romantic interest who might want to get to know you more. Um, and who is calling for your fire? Like you should know who's calling for your fire if you want to be able to engage accordingly, right? Not everybody or everything calling for your fire is helpful. And so, how do you check in with yourself when that happens? Um, so, anyway, I could go into more examples about what that could mean, what that could look like. Um, I'll give one more example. So if you have a certain group of friends who are calling for your fire, calling with you can think your fire is like your attention, your energy, like wanting you to text back really fast or calling you frequently, asking you to do things that you think is not in your best interest or the best interest of your family. But it can also be the friends who are helping you grow. The friends who are wanting to collaborate and build with you. Who's calling for your fire? Who's calling for that? So that's a question to carry. Another thing that I love about this particular book is it offers a quote of inspiration from a trailblazer, from a poet, from a writer, from a community organizer, etc., from clergy. Um, but here's a quote from Audre Lorde from the text Uses of the Erotic as Power. The quote says, "When we begin to live from within outward, in touch with the power of the erotic within ourselves, and allowing that power to inform and illuminate our actions upon the world around us, then we begin to be responsible to ourselves in the deepest sense." And in the text Uses of the Erotic, it's a really powerful read. I definitely recommend looking up Audre Lorde's work if you're not already familiar, to kind of aid you um, in inspiration when you might feel down this season. Another recommendation in this book related to those who are in the energy or the keywordness of the Root of Fire. Um, Dandelion could be plant medicine to get in relationship with. Lottie Spady, who is an herbalist in the Detroit area, I believe she's behind the offerings related to herbs and plants in this particular book. But she says dandelion uh, head nods to survival, perseverance against all odds, nourishment, flexibility, resourcefulness. It can be brewed as a detox tea, or the roots roasted for dandelion coffee. Dandelion can be made to um, make a pesto or a wine, and dandelion flower syrup is like honey. So, again, I'm not an herbalist, but if we're talking about how do we feed our spiritual life, if people are already online and already on the internet without teachers, without lineage, without roots, without grounding, and they are talking about tarot anyway, they're talking about oracle cards anyway, but not many people are contributing to the psychoeducation, community education around the usefulness of tarot cards. And just like any medicine, right? Like there can be side effects to using tarot cards or oracle cards as a resource, right? People who might go to them too much and not rely on their insight or their own intuition or the answers that they just literally have in front of their faces already. So we use resources not to misuse them. We use them to help us. Um, we how do we know that something is helpful or not helpful? We are asking ourselves a few questions. How is something helpful to me or not helpful to me? You might want to ask yourself, is this getting in the way of my relationships, friendships, family, a social club, book club friends, neighbor friends, like whoever is in your relationship network, is a particular behavior getting in the way of that, so where those things that were working are not working. And if that's the case, you might want to invite a pause, step away from that particular activity, um, seek some type of counsel about your reliance on that activity, so that whatever is causing that persistent behavior can be supported and redirected if needed by the proper support person. Um, but yeah, so people are out here just inundating people's news feeds with certain readings. And again, I'm here talking about it because this is the spiritual part. This is an aspect of the spiritual part of people's lives, especially millennials, especially Gen Z, and it feels important to be able to have conversations about these things. Whereas in some cultures, bringing in tarot cards or oracle cards can have these negative consequences in that particular culture. And so we just want to destigmatize some of the resources that people are using, and in that destigmatization, offer some community education on why this could be helpful to people, and why it could not be helpful, right? And how do you fact check that for yourself? I'll do a brief summary. How do I know that I'm leaning into the right tarot cards? Or how do I know um, if I'm in right relationship with the tarot cards? Um, if you can, find a teacher, you know, uh, find a teacher who can help you work with something like this responsibly, um, who will give you insight and wisdom and pros and cons and have a real honest discussion with you about that particular resource. Again, something like tarot cards or oracle cards. Um, have a teacher. I think the second thing is just monitor your consumption. There's such an overabundance, excuse me, of digital information and videos just consumed without a critical analysis, without taking inventory on what it's doing to you, or doing to us when we're not using these tools mindfully. Um, yeah, so I hope that this is helpful. Feel free to leave a comment. Again, I haven't decided if I'm going to take comments off or the option off or not, but I hope that this is helpful. This is Violetta with Notice That Therapy PLLC. Um, I hope that this channel continues to be a resource as well. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.